A very warm welcome to this, the second edition of My Community 2024. My name is Sherwood McCaskey. As always, I'm pleased that you have joined us. This week we continue on that journey in this The Pine community. A community that has a story of transformation and unity. Now, every community has its challenges, and The Pine is no exception. But what sets it apart is not the battle it has fought, but the many lessons that it was able to learn and the remarkable turnaround and transformation that followed. We begin with Hamilton Lashley.
This interesting aspect of The Pine, okay, where could anything good come out of The Pine? Because at that time, The Pine, well, as I said, was considered a very much bastardized community. And it was notorious for the kind of infighting and the ferocity at the time that existed in The Pine.
Because, you know, The Pine was formed from after the flood in '55, all of these different people coming from different places and formed the community. And what happened is that, you know, because of people not knowing one another, the housing conditions, no social facilities, it created the perfect condition for chaos.
And a lot of the infighting came from the construction, the way the houses were constructed. There were no inside bath or anything like that. There was houses, okay? The floors upstairs, the houses in Princess Roy particularly were built up wood floors. So if water spilled upstairs and it seeped downstairs or anything else happened, upstairs would seep through. It created a lot of strife among the residents. So, again, the question was asked, could anything good come out of The Pine? Which created a lot of infighting, a lot of confusion among the residents, and many of them were placed before the law courts. Enter Lennox Perry. P for Perry, P for Pine, P for prison. So this magistrate was imported into Barbados to quell the so-called disturbances in The Pine. And because The Pine had a serious reputation at the time.
When you came from The Pine, you went before Perry, you went straight to prison. Therefore, P for Pine, P for Perry, P for prison became associated with us. So you couldn't get a job, you know, it was difficult for people in The Pine to be recognized for anything. So growing up in The Pine in them early times was that challenge in the 70s. And you know, it was a good thing and a bad thing. A bad thing in that it was negative for the community, but a good thing because it gave me something to fight for. It was the thing that gave us purpose.
And if you go in the magistrate court downtown at the time and Perry was presiding, P for Perry, P for Pine, and P for prison, you will find that they had a special bench. That they named that is for all Pine people. That's that bench over there. You come before Perry to sit down. All Pine people will sit down over there till your case is called. And there are very few, if any at all, residents at the time escaped the fury and wrath of Perry. All right. So actually Perry lived not too far from The Pine either. He lived in Government Hill. But the Pine people there were so afraid of getting into any infractions with the law, having to go before Perry, that it kind of quelled the illegal exuberance at the time. That is the infighting.
In the face of adversity, The Pine made a collective decision to bridge the gaps, heal the wounds, and build bridges instead of walls. It's a story of redemption, of neighbors becoming allies, and of a community deciding to forge a brighter future together.
These two communities were the two most feared communities in Barbados. We had, on our side, we had Badmain, notorious Badmain that had a national reputation of notoriety. Then you had Chapman Lane and New Orleans. And we fought. Literally fight. I remember some occurrences, the time the Chapman Lane boys left and come up to The Pine to invade The Pine. And we saw them from the Parkinson Community Center which was in its early development at the time. And we could not believe that these men got the courage and the audacity to come into our territory in the Pine. And they came up armed with chains, cutlasses. It was a serious thing, cutlasses. They were armed with 2x4s, 2x3s. You know, they were armed with everything. And then we were playing a cricket match on top of Regent Hill. And when they got there where the waterworks, they came over the hill and we had to run. We had to run and lock up the center, and the men out there, and the men came out there want to get at us, you know, to really destroy me at the time. But there was one man that came up the hill. I will not call his name. He came up dressed in all black, and he had a sign mark, "I am the Undertaker." And he was well armed with some dynamite, and they ran. That was a reprieve. And they ran. That was a serious, serious reprieve, because we were inside the center trembling, because they had people like Neville Brand and other persons from Chapman Lane. The point we had Mackie Fraser on our side. You know, he was the Undertaker at the time. And the war went on like that. If you were inside the cinema sitting down watching the picture comfortable, and you got your girlfriend running, you see this man come through the theater, go to these searchlights. Yeah, that one there, that's the pay man there. You got to get up and run. You got to get up and run the Chester through Nelson Street, all the way up the back of government. You know, one thing about most of us, we were fit and fast. And that war continued like that. It had a lot of casualties, injuries. But one day, we decided we can bring all of this to an end. And the former commissioner of police, Aviston Prescott, the people from Chapman Lane, and the people from the Pine, that is the leaders. After 3 years of war, you think the Gaza war that fighting now is something new? And it was a community war in Barbados.
You see, at that time, a few members of the Pine community faced their fair share of disagreements with others in different communities. But here is where the narrative takes a positive turn. Instead of glorifying those disagreements, we focus on the resilience and wisdom of the Pine community. They decided it was time to rewrite their story.
We ended up in the Commissioner of Police office, Mr. Aviston Prescott, and sat down and signed a peace treaty to finish this fight, finish this war. And it finished. When I became minister myself, I used that same technique too. When there was a faction in the Pine between academics and dungeon, I used the same concept, and also it worked. It worked for a long time. When these two groups were fighting against each other. And now I see the current young minister, Corey Laird, is using that kind of intervention approach. And I want to also thank the men from New Orleans, the same New Orleans at Chapman Lane, who came together and called the warring factions in Barbados in this present day, and determined that they are going to put down their guns and their arms and fight and live a peaceful life. I think that is one of the most progressive and prolific strategies in terms of quelling disturbances in communities. Let us sit down, let us talk, let us iron it out. So we had that experience. I must tell you though, that at the same time, people like Mark Worrell, Joris Dunner were instruments of change. We had in the Pine, at that time, when we start to settle and we start to think more constructive, people like Hazel Lindo, who became the first president of the Pinelands Development Council. I think I was the second person that had the council, which was actually formed by Dr. Bradley Nice, the late Dr. Bradley Nice, who was extremely instrumental in the development of the Pine.
The council formed out of, there was the head of, what we had at the time, it was called the extramural department, which was the extension to the university. It's now called open campus. It was then called extramural department. And at the time in 1975, there was this professor called Dr. Bradley Niles. He just finished his doctorate and came back home. And he went over to head the extramural department, which was right dead in the Pine, right next to Parkinson. I remember he called this meeting in 75, and I remember myself went over, Hammy, Ralph Walcott, I think John Collymore at the time. A few of us went over. He called this meeting because he wanted to do something and give back to the community. And therefore, the Pines Development Council, the concept for it was formed right there in Dr. Bradley Nice's office. And in fact, he went on and he continued to be the kind of a mentor for the community at the time. He was very good at, that kind of social development thing, because he did the same in Haynesville. I remember he did a lot in terms of helping to form the Haynesville Community Youth Group as well. So Dr. Bradley Nice, he was foremost in that. He was central to that at the time. So remember, as young boys, we going over, and when he came back from doing his doctorate. So yeah, and that's how the council starts. So we had we own government in the Pine. So the Pines Development Council, we had somebody responsible for education, somebody responsible for sports, somebody responsible for agriculture. Almost every area that you will see a government have responsibility for. And so that in the very early days, education was also a very important focus for us. Also agriculture. I remember in 1980, between 80 and 81, we established a farming. In fact, we were able to set up the first Rastafarian farming community in Regent Hill. And out of that came something which we call the Black Star Learners. It was the first Rastafarian football team that then attracted national footballers from across the country. So you had a lot of outstanding national footballers that came or was part of that Black Star Learners team, and it was a very progressive farming compound, it was supported by USAID at the time. We also got support from the Chinese government at the time. So it was very progressive, it was that basis to kind of bring the Rastafarian community, not only in the Pine, across Barbados, it was kind of space for people to, kind of communicate and stuff. So yeah, so we had kind of like focus group people for almost every area that you can think about that was important for development. In the 80s, we had at the time, we were called the Commodore computer. We were one of the early communities to actually have computer classes back in the late 80s, early 90s. So in terms of education, we focused very early at them times in terms of computer literacy. So that was the head of the thing. We did a lot around literacy at the time. So education, agriculture, sports management was important. And the workshop also kind of fell under the council. So the council was the umbrella. And every other community organization and every other activity then fell under the ambit of the council. So you will have representation from these different entities sitting on the council. So the council was the umbrella arm. So we had a very cool, like I said, we had like our own government. We had our own government structure.
Mr. Ralph Walker, a community development officer, who we owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to in terms of the transformational change in the Pine through he was a sociologist too, through his social intervention strategies. Because unknowingly and unwittingly, there was a decision taken by the residents. We will talk about that also. Who determined that they must turn around this stigma. They must turn around this bad talk about the Pine, all right? Because it was getting really, really serious in Barbados, where people had feared anyone living in the Pine housing area, particularly at that time. But like I said, that's some very community-minded persons who determined, who were living in Golden Rock at the time. Princess Royal, Golden Rock. It is amazing how the residents got together and determined that they are going to turn around this the stigma of the Pine housing area. And how they did that? They did that by organizing sports programs, sporting competition, social social programming to help the poor people in the pain, you know. But the genesis of it was the sports. That was the catalyst that created that kind of change within the Pine housing area. In actual fact, the Pine community was once considered as the most progressive community and the most active in Barbados, which Sherwood is a serious thing. There's no netball tournament where they're currently the basketball champions. There was a year in the year 19, there was 19, I think it was 1992. Yes, 1992. When the Pinelands community rejoiced, they won every single tournament in Barbados. They won the Banks Micro Mini League on the 14, 16, and on the 18. They won the BFA knockout, the BFA champions and champions, the BFA League Cup. They won the netball League Cup. They won the netball knockout, the netball champions at the time. They also won the basketball. We won everything. The whole community celebrated. You should see, this is what I call the power of community action, community commitment, community achievement, and making a community feel proud. I feel that a lot more resources must be placed in communities across Barbados, following the Pinelands model, which brings about a level of socialization across the country. And the community that they said was the worst community in Barbados at that time was the most progressive community in Barbados. And I feel that model should be replicated not only in Barbados, but across the region.
For sure, like I said, we focus a lot on sports in the early days. So between the 70s and the 80s, sports was the main activity. So we had a very vibrant netball team. A lot of national players came out to that. Very vibrant football, vibrant basketball, and those were the treatment. And also cricket. I remember the West Ham Cricket Club was very prominent at the time. And actually that is how Granif came into the Pine, Granif Squares, as I reflect, you know. But we were very strong in sports. We kind of dominated all those different areas of sports at the time, and you know that kind of like helped to give the community some purpose, and also give us something to rally behind that was positive. So sports was like our role model, you know. The sports teams were like our role model, something to look to that. You know, defied the saying that nothing good could come out of the Pine. You know, we were saying about, look, you know, we're champions in football, we're champions in netball, we beating everybody in basket, we beating, you know, so.
And then the social engineers was like George Danner, Michael Roach, we call it those early, and I'm going to call them Ivan P. Ford. You have also Chester Stewart from West Ham Club. You had also Chester Stewart. You had Guy Harris. You also had Ralph Hyland. And there were quite a few outstanding cricketers of the time that lived in the Pine. I mean, these people helped to transform the tattered image of the Pine. I must say also that those persons, right, would come together, they would meet, and we will always be competing against each other. We ran against each other in the road. We organized cricket, inter-Pinelands cricket competitions, inter-Pinelands netball competitions, inter-Pinelands basketball competitions. You know, another important point that has to be made, if you're to fully understand this story of the Pine, most of the Pine people came, as I said earlier, from Martindale's Road, Carrington Village, Halls Road. And that is why you finally like to call it the tale of two cities. What people, and let me prove this point. Gas Clark, the late Gas Clark, he played for Weymouth Wales, probably the best all-round sportsman Barbados ever produced, in my view. along with Sir Garfield Sobers. But Gareth lived, played for Weymouth Wales from down here in Carrington Village. Yet, in the latter stages of Gareth's life, he lived in the Pine. You know, and a lot, John Barrow, Wales manager, he had children in the Pine. He also lived in what they, in Wildema, I call it the Pine, because all is the same area. And quite a few people from down here, you know, live in the Pine Sportsmen. And whenever Wales and Piners clash, whenever Wales and Piners clash, that time Wales had, like now, was the Star Boys of Barbados football. You know, whenever Wales and Piners clash, you could bet the stadium full. 3/4 of those people in the national stadium were from the Pine. Keith Griffith was player for Wales. He living in the Pine. You know what I mean? In Wales, they don't like to say Willie, but it's the same thing. And when I say that, I understand to respect the geographical demarcations. But when you sociologically, when you talk to the people, you're always Pine people. And you can leave the Pine. What was amazing, most of the houses were empty when these two teams clashed. And you could go to the Pine and come back in, nobody breaking your house, not going in your house, or then, you know. It was that kind of liberty at the time. It was that kind of a respect and association and all of that at the time. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you know, Sherwood, what else you want me to talk about? I can talk. You know what I mean?
And Hamilton Lashley did just that. He talked and talked. The former Minister of Government and Member of Parliament for the area continued to speak of great sportsmanship. Yes, the efforts of community members who, through their sporting feats, wrote the name of the Pine on history's page.
The Pine produced an exceptional athletes. Okay, Reuben Bailey, who had the long distance record in Barbados for a very long time. You had Roy Clark, who was an Olympian and organized the senior games. You also had Kerry Beckles. Also, you have besides that, you had Victor Houston, Junior, Victor Houston Senior.
Well, as I said, we had all the Newtons. So you had Michael Newton. You had like 3 or 4 of them, Basil Newton. 4 or 5 of them. You had Poser, Wayne Poser. He was also a national cap and a national captain as well. You had little Trevor's last name. I can't remember his last name. He was also a national cap as well. Both of them passed within the last 10 years. Yeah, but we had some national caps that came out. We had Scotty. You know, I could just remember like 1 names. You know, in that time, everything is a 1 name, you know. So, but we had a lot of guys who went on to be national caps at that time. We had a really good, I mean, the Pine, at the time when Pine went to play football, it was the whole community. It wasn't just the football team. Even when the Pine went to play netball, we had some outstanding netballers as well. When the Pine went to play either netball, basketball, or football, it would be the whole of the Pine. So sports meant a lot to us. And also cricket. I remember every Sunday, there used to be a cricket match. This is hardball cricket at the community center. So you got West Ham playing somebody, you know, playing Hampshire, somebody else. And actually, that's how Gwyneth Squares is introduced to the Pine. She came in with a cricket team from Trinidad, and they played a game on Regent Hill. And Gwyneth never left. She fell in love with the Pine and fell in love with Barbados. That's why she actually ended up living in Parkinson Field in the Pine. You know, she have grandchildren up there. So she left her legacy in the Pine. She came in and she felt part of that community spirit. She never left. You know, so that's why we also at Pinelands Creative Workshop, we have that close connection with Gwyneth. Because I knew Gwyneth from way back when she came here playing cricket, you know.
So we talk about the Pinelands Creative Workshop. I just wondering if you could remember just a few names of the netballers. People love to hear the names.
Well, you've seen Manning for sure. Hazel Lindo. She was one of the things, as I say, you see, man, they both came from the same gap down in Midway Lane. You had the Moore sisters from Princess Royal. I can't remember if Marcia Moore, and there was another one, but I mean, they think they both moved away at this time, but they were outstanding players. Then you had like Sandra Ferguson, and in the younger years, Marion Johnson. And let me tell you about Sandra Ferguson. There was never, a colorful player. I mean, somebody would take the ball and do some things with it with her hands. I mean, one of Barry's most outstanding players that I've ever seen with a netball. So much so that as boys, and most of them at the Parkinson School, when Parkinson School had a play netball, we were missing that, because it was like, it was more than netball. It was just entertainment. The way how the girls and some manage a ball and twirl, it was outstanding, man, So, I mean, so many outstanding athletes, musicians, people just come out to the Pinellas community. And even if you look at Parkinson, went to school at Parkinson, you had Edwin, you had the great Darcy Boyce, you had the late Earl Warner, so many people, that we've produced that was part of the development in one way or the next. Because if you went to Parkinson, you had to be part of the development. Because the school was always integrated into the community. It was not just Parkinson School in the community, it was always an integration. And the good thing is that most of the headmasters ensure that that integration continued.
In fact, what really jettisoned and galvanized the efforts in the Pine and further made the Pine people believe in themselves was a gentleman named Heavy Mullins. For the first walking race around the island walking race that was organized by the Advocate newspaper, when Bertie Lash, who now lives in Oyster, won that race. A gentleman from the Pine named Heavy Mullins, who lived in Region Hill, he came second. And when he was brought home, the Pine rejoiced, you know what I mean? And then he built a gym in Region Hill where all of us want to be like him, and we go to the gym to lift heavy weights and to get the chest big and the legs. It was a fascinating transformation of the mind set by Heavy Mullins. And a lot of people, even Victor Young, who's one of those outstanding senior athletes, he used to come and train in the gym down there.
It's not just about the fights they left behind, but the shared dreams they're building for tomorrow. A community that recognizes that its true strength lies in unity, and where community members have learnt from their past and are now channeling that energy into positive initiative. It's a fascinating story of the Pine community. We shall continue to celebrate the resilience, the many lessons and the unity that define this community. Now, to our students of history, if you wish to speak of the transformative role sporting and cultural activities could play in the lives of community members, you must study the Pine. If you wish to speak of the early history of bodybuilding in Barbados, you must study the fine example of the Pine community. The Pine community here in St. Michael, Barbados, is a beautiful thesis waiting to be written by one of you. Please do give it some consideration. I'm Sherwood McCaskey. Thanks for your time.